What is up, my peeps? Good day to you. Been gone a little bit. I had to unfortunately drive across the United States and pick up some stuff from Oregon and bring it back to Florida, so on, etc. So, having said that, I haven't got to edit any pictures or whatnot. The picture right here on screen is a picture I took when I got back. I actually did a live video on YouTube as I was taking this picture, and I thought I would do an edit so I could show everybody you don't have to, go to another country or this and that to get a cool wildlife picture. You don't have to even go to the wildlife. You could just go to a zoo or go to a wildlife park of some sort. I guess they're all zoos, but some specialize in different things. This particular picture is a Jaguar in Jacksonville, Florida zoo. And this is the baby Jaguar, and for once he wasn't with his mom and just napping on the rocks here. So I'll give you a quick little run through of some pictures that, these were all taken at the zoo. As they sit right here, they're nothing special. There's an edited one, so here's what it would look like before an edit. Here's after an edit. Pretty similar, just crop and color correction. Nothing crazy. These I'll probably edit at some point. They were ibis birds flopping around on the water. I think I could get a cool picture of it. Anyway, you could see, I'm just at a zoo, and they're, overexposed. Crap, I'm going to delete that. And, don't delete all your photos if you think there's a bad one. Like this one, I would say is not good because of this here. But with some proper cropping, you probably could do something with it. But if they're overexposed or just damaged, yeah. Here was a red cardinal that was flying around the zoo, not part of the zoo, they just happen to be common in this area. Anyway, the beautiful birds, so I had to capture him in all his glory, and I do believe that is a male. That's why he's such a colorful bird. These are all unedited pics. There's an edited pic, and that's not even the final edit, but I just had to make sure the eyes would show through because their face is all black. And so yeah, there's some stuff. I'm just gonna go down. Here's the edited picture of the Jaguar, and here's an unedited one that we're gonna work with. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this. Mug over here a little bit. I wish that there was a way to, you can make me smaller or bigger, but I'd like to just have this be a little circle. I'm going to probably have to get a different screen recording program, but that's okay. Okay, so what I've got, this is opened up in Camera Raw. I'm going to make myself a little bit bigger, so maybe right down here. This is in Camera Raw, and it's really flat. There is some good light. You'll see this light trickling down here, which illuminates the Jaguar. And this is framing him in really nice. These lines here, and there's plenty of detail. My exposure was really good on it. I shot this with my Canon R5 and the 200 to 800 millimeter lens. This here a little bit. And if you haven't shot with the 200 to 800, it's new. It's not an L lens, but it looks like an L lens. It's priced not too far from an L lens, and it's got every feature except for Canon saying it's an L lens. So I'm pretty stoked about it. I imagine they're going to come out with another version that's a little bit better, and that'll be an L lens. Having said all that, let's get to the edit. First and foremost, what I usually do is decide what my crop is going to be. This is going to be an 8x10 or a 4x5 crop, and the reason why is that's pretty standard for large prints. And if it was in a different orientation, maybe I'd choose something different. But for this one, I think a 4x5. So I'm just going to go to crop. I'm going to go to 4x5, 8x10. And then, you know, you could get artsy. You could bring him up to this point if you wanted to. If you thought that this stuff down here, if you thought this stuff was interesting, you could do that. Kind of naturally from shooting, I tend to follow the rule of thirds pretty good. It's just kind of ingrained into my head. You'll see his eye lines on the rule of thirds. That wasn't like I 100% knew that was going to happen, but I shoot so much my eye kind of just does it for me. If you're not fortunate enough to have an edit in your head ahead of time, shoot a little wider and then you have room to crop. I don't want it any wider, but what I do want is to make sure that the eyes lead to the right thing. This stuff doesn't, these branches down here, they don't add to the picture. So for me, I'm gonna kind of center him. I do like this tree branch here, kind of leads your eyes down to him, so I'm gonna just crop it in a little tighter. Not much. And I think we could put his nose right on this third here. This line going across his eye works really well. Nothing back here really matters, but just know, like, you know, you don't want to have too much space here. I'll probably actually put just get the nose is the rule of thirds, and I won't really worry about his eye. His ear also lands on that third, so that's nice. It gets us pretty close. This side actually is a little bit bigger than this side, but I don't think that's going to matter. And then of course his tail comes along here. I'm just going to hit return. This little piece here, it won't even really be noticeable. We still want to keep the leaves and this going. Obviously, he's the star of the show. One thing I didn't do is kind of look. You click on the straighten tool, maybe go along here and just, yeah, it looks pretty straight. So make sure that your horizontal lines are straight, because if they're not, it becomes very noticeable and annoying to the viewer's eyes. So I'm gonna now make my face a little smaller so you can look at the picture more. All right, so this looks all in all pretty good. If you have presets here, which obviously I do, you could just choose, you know, one like this one called Portrait Generate. It's from a set I bought. There's going to be similars. You can buy sets from Jared Polin or you know, Peter McKinnon. You know, any of your favorite YouTubers. I'll probably have sets out at some point, but you know, find one that makes the picture stand out if you don't want to do the sliders. So like here's a Jared Polin one, Skittles, he talks about it all the time. You will see, let me click on it. You will see in this particular picture, it blows out the blacks. So you would either have to pull that down here to about there, and then you'd be pretty close, or you could manually do it. So if I bring that back up to about 100%, I go down here, then I'd have to go to the blacks and just pull those up to where you're not getting loss of data, you know. And looking at his settings, so he has taken the highlights all the way down, put the shadows almost all the way up, blasted the whites a little bit. I would almost say with this particular picture, bring some of those highlights back, because that's what leads this light to his face. Anyway, I am not going to use his settings, so I'm going to go to auto. And here's what Adobe thinks. It's very similar to what I did. Actually, they adjusted the contrast a little differently and pumped up the whites and the shadows, but they didn't take the highlights all the way down. If you take the highlights all the way down, you start losing a little bit of the detail. Sometimes in a sky, however, it would bring back some detail. I'm just gonna play around with these sliders a little bit. Like I said, I'm gonna pull the blacks up just a little bit so we don't lose everything. And there's that. There's the, this could be a done picture right here. Obviously that's not teaching anything, and it's not really showing what you can do. What I would do is I'd go into here, would select subject, which does a really good job finding the cat. We're going to bring those shadows up even more just in the cat. I'm going to bring the exposure up just a touch. I want him to pop. I leave the whites. And we'll bring the whites up like 10%. Why not? Here, bring those highlights down now, just a little bit. You'll see that he's starting to kind of pull off the page a little bit. You know, your eyes are now going directly to him. But what I would do, which those presets don't usually do, is mess around with the effects, texture. So I'm going to pull the texture slider up. I'll pull the clarity slider up. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And all these hairs on him are starting to really pop. And then I'm going to just barely take up the dehaze. Now you can see the black starting to clip just a little bit. It's okay, we'll just pull the black up just a little bit more. And pull the shadows up just a little bit more. Okay, so now, you know, if we go before, after, just subtle, but he's brighter and the colors are richer. You could actually even bring up a little bit of this warmth, and I'll also bring up just a little bit of this tint just to make those colors richer, and you could add more saturation if you want. You know, the goal is to really make that cat pop, really make it come out. Alright, so like I said, this is going to be a fairly quick edit. I don't think you need to go to the savannah or go to the jungle or wherever you're going to find these wild animals and get a picture. You could just go to zoo and get a really nice picture. So I think that's good. I'm going to do another mask. So create a mask. This process is the same whether you're using Lightroom or Camera Raw, like what I'm using. Camera Raw is basically Lightroom, but it's built into Photoshop. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring the exposure down about 10%. I'm going to bring those highlights down. Contrast, I think I'll bring up just a little bit, maybe 20%. I don't want to overbake it. and then blacks. You can play around with these sliders. If you go to the right, it's going to flatten your image out. I actually think I'm going to just barely, like, you'll see these blue marks. That's the clipping. That's okay. That's in the deepest shadows. I think that's about where I'm going to go. Bring the shadows up a little bit more so I can bring the blacks down a little bit more. Okay. And then as far as colors here, I'm probably going to take the temperature down about 10%. And I'm not going to mess with the slider. This is going to add a little bit of blues into these shadows a little bit. And there's a reasoning for that. I really want contrast between the cat and the rocks. So by taking that temperature down just a little, we get that. So you could, if you wanted to, you could desaturate the background a little bit. I don't think I'm going to. And we're getting close. I mean, honestly, this picture, I took like 3 or 4 pictures of this cat in this position, and it just worked. You know, the composition is right, and that's what you guys are going to want to look for, is what visually looks nice in your camera. Snap the picture, and then when you get back, choose the proper edits and the proper cropping and stuff like that. As you can tell, I haven't had to do a whole lot, you know. Know the settings in your camera, get that right first, and then your edits are going to be very easy. Alright, so do another mask here. I'm going to do a radial gradient. Here we're just going to direct the eyes right to the kitty. So you can see I put a mask over the cat. Now I'm going to invert that mask. I hit X on the keyboard, go right there, and I'm going to take this feather down a little bit so it's not as aggressive, and we're just going to take the exposure down just a touch, just a smidge right there. And you know, it causes a little vignetting action, but really it just draws your eyes right to that cat. And then we're going to do one more gradient. We're going to do another radial, and this time I'm going to do more of a circle. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this temperature to the right, about 20%. I think this circle is too much. I think it still needs to be more of a radial, so we're just going to bring that in and bring that down. This is very optional. This is a very stylized thing to do, but I think having it look as if the light, which the light was going to this direction, but emphasizing that light onto the cat. And that is about it. I don't think we need to go crazy. So I'm going to go to just global adjustments. Oh, actually, I'm going to do one more thing. Let me go back here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go take the texture down, clarity down, and this dehaze. I'm going to go negative dehaze, which you'll see right here. This stuff all starts getting glowy and blurry. That's exactly what we want, but we'll probably back it off the cat just a little bit. So the focus goes right to his eye. You get a little kind of blur. I like these spots. They kind of look like hearts, a couple of them. It's a good looking cat. Anyway, so up to saturation just a touch right there, and I think I'll go up on the temperature just a touch more, because when you take this dehaze slider down, it adds a haze, so it's not as strong, and it just lightens things. I honestly think that's pretty good. If you wanted to add even more emphasis, you could go And do a radial gradient here. Just darken that, you know, a little bit. And then I could actually add to that right there as well. So if you go before, after, for some reason now it's not showing squat. I know it did it. Anyway, you could add a little darkness down to like the bottom just to draw your eyes up. Like I said, I could really focus in if we wanted to, but I'm not going to. So I like that. I think I'll also take the texture and the clarity and the dehaze down just a touch, which if you do that, you need to bring the exposure down a little bit more too, because dehazing makes things brighter. Alright, so here we are. Basically a finished picture. I can see this for an ad for the zoo. You know, they could put, this is going to open up in Photoshop real quick. They could put the Jacksonville Zoo logo down in here and, you know, come see the Jaguars or whatever. To finalize that, what I'm going to do is grab my signature. If you don't have a signature made to where you could just do this, you should do it. I can always do a tutorial on that if you're interested. And you could do anything from buying a logo from, there's a couple different companies that will do signatures for you, or you could use an iPad and create your signature, save it as a PNG without a background. This one I actually even have a drop shadow on. And then, you know, you just figure out where you're going to place it at. So, you know, center focus is pretty common. It bugs me because there's this rock break here. It goes right through the signature. So I think what I'm going to do is just bring this down to the lower right. And I'll probably tilt it to about there. And that, my friends, is pretty much a finished product. If you know me at all, you know a lot of times I will add just a white border around just to make it look more like a photograph. That's it. That's literally a 20-minute edit with me explaining everything as I go. If you did this in your own time, it may take you 5 or 10 minutes to do this because there's not a lot of stop and goes, but look at the details into this cat. I mean, granted, this is a Canon R5, so it's, you know, 48 megapixel camera with a really decent lens, but this was shot at like f9. It's not like the shallowest depth of field. It wasn't the best time of day to shoot. The lighting was kind of flat and not as interesting, but look, it looks like we have a spotlight coming down on the Jaguar, and that's really how the light was. We just emphasized it, and that's what you want to do. So here's a basic zoo shot, but it doesn't look like it was taken at a zoo. I'm shooting through fencing and sometimes glass and other things, and your cameras, as long as you have a camera in the last few years, should be able to focus past that. You may have to have a different focal length, you know. I mean, You couldn't get this picture if you were using a 35 millimeter. It'd be too far away. I'm at 800 millimeters. But, you know, you could shoot with like a pretty standard lens would be a 200 millimeter. You could get pretty close to the same results with a 200. I was standing pretty far away because there was people in front of me. If you got up a little closer, you could do a picture like this with a 200 millimeter, which is a pretty standard lens. So that's it. That's the edit of the day. So I hope you like it. If everybody could do me a favor and just like and subscribe, that would be great. I don't really like begging people for following, but I do think I have some good knowledge that I could share with you. And the only way you'll know if I'm doing this is if you subscribe. So there is my baby Jaguar picture sleeping. I think he's a gorgeous animal, and you could get stuff just like this wherever you're at. Find a zoo, a wildlife preserve, or something like that, and just take your camera out and shoot stuff. Again, going back to the rest of my zoo trip, I mean, I go through and I see different animals, and not everyone's a winner. Look at that one. That one's completely blurry. This one's ready to be edited. That one was bad timing. Another bad timing. That one, this is an edited picture. Oh, maybe not. I guess those are not edited. They good out of the camera. So, you take and shoot. This guy ended up being really cool. He just staring at me. So, you take and edit. Like this could be an interesting picture. This is a miss if you look at it just like this. And see, the next one is also a miss. But you could turn this just with cropping. I'm not going to edit this picture, but just with some good cropping. Let's do a square crop and just get some personality there. Go somewhere in that ballpark. Now that miss is not such a miss. I'm going to hit auto just so I could get the levels right. I could take this picture and then a few minutes make this one into a cool, interesting picture, which would be great for if your clients are the zoo or whatever, like capturing some of the animals. So anyway, I'm going to cancel that because that's not what we're working on. But that's what you could do. Go to a zoo, snap pictures of everything, try different angles, different levels, different heights, different focal lengths, and you should be able to get something very similar to this with just very little work. Just being there. Go to the place that you could go to. We can't all go to Africa or Asia or wherever all these wild animals are, but we can still find interesting things. There's zoos near just about everybody. Alright guys, peace. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you soon.